How long does the battery last on this?
2 hours.
So what do you think of Mahaprabhu after hearing a little bit of an overview?
That he is in the mood of Srimati Radha, and second thing that he's teaching to all.
Both. In the 3rd chapter of Adi Lila, it speaks more about Damodar Prabhu. Maybe you can take one of these pillows or put the yoga mat out or something so you don't, floor is cold. In the 3rd chapter of Adi Lila, it speaks about him, Anarpitam Sinam Sirat Kununavatir no Kalo, so that he's giving something that it hasn't been given for a long time. And then in the 4th chapter, it talks about his relishing. So one is he's teaching, and the other is he's personally relishing. And really, it's very difficult to teach unless you're also personally relishing what you're teaching. There's a saying about writing also, that if I write, or same for speaking, if I speak what I know, I get bored. And if I speak what you know, you get bored. And then they say, so therefore I speak what I don't know, which is not exactly our philosophy, but there's a truth in it, that you speak, and then Krishna gives you extra when you're speaking about him. Yeah. So anyway, we were going to begin with Antya Lila, the 1st chapter, which is about Rupa Goswami's 2nd meeting with the Lord. Om Agyanataminandasya Jana Jana Salakaya Saksisa Militan Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Caitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapantatikam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Samane Tanamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Navase Sanyavadi Paskati Desatarane. Vanshakapatubhyascha kripasanubhe vachapatitanam prabhadebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. So how is Krishna Das Kaviraj going to begin Antya Lila? He's already summarized the entirety of Antya Lila in the 2nd half of the 1st chapter of Madhya Lila, and also the 2nd chapter of Madhya Lila. He's already summarized it because he's very meticulous in this. Kaviraj Goswami, he summarizes Adi Lila, and then at the end of Adi Lila, he gives a summary of what he's spoken. So he's already summarized Madhya Lila, and at the end of Madhya Lila, he gives a summary of what he's spoken, and he also summarizes Antya Lila here, and he gives a summary of Antya Lila in the final chapter of Antya Lila. And in addition to that, at the beginning of every chapter, not always, but almost always, he summarizes what the chapter is going to be about. So in the 1st verse, there's a wonderful prayer, Pangom langayate shailam mukam avataye trutim yat kripatamaham vande Krishna Chaitanya Ishvaram, where he offers his respectful obeisances to Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by whose mercy even a lame man can cross over a mountain and a dumb man can recite Vedic literature. So how can a lame man cross over a mountain? It's not possible, practically speaking. And how can a person who is dumb, not meaning foolish, but dumb meaning that he can't speak, how could he recite Vedic literature? And so Kaviraj Goswami is saying in a wonderful verse, this is actually possible by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when you hear that, what do you think?
amazing.
And what else do you think?
Well, if that's the Mahaprabhu's mercy, then I feel there is a hope for me.
There's hope, because that's what we were talking about. Without hope, you can't keep going. We need hope. Hope has to burn bright. So Kaviraj Goswami is giving us hope, and he's experiencing this too. He's experiencing amazing things, and he's heard amazing things from Raghunath Das Goswami. He's associated with Jiva Goswami. So he's living in the world, a very refined world of exalted Vaishnavas. And when you're in the world of people whose consciousness is so pure, so one of the effects is you naturally feel that you don't belong. And another effect is you get more hope. So then he says, so he does this in every chapter. He glorifies, at the beginning of every chapter, he glorifies Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and usually glorifies the Panchatattva as well. So here he says, Dogame pateme andasya skalat pada gatir muke swakripa yasti danena santa sant valambanam. My path is very difficult. Who here thinks their path is easy? But you can even say that life is easy and it's so much fun and pleasurable until you set the goal of life as to develop love for Krishna. And only then the obstacles start coming. And what are the obstacles? The obstacles aren't put there by Krishna, but they're put there by our own desires. Our own desires and our own karma. But if one focuses on the goal and takes shelter of Vaishnavas, of Mahaprabhu, this is going to come out in later on in his verses, that then the obstacles are removed if one can focus our consciousness on Sri Krishna Chaitanya, on the lotus feet of Krishna Chaitanya. So my path is very difficult. I am blind. So he's talked about crossing mountains. So this is the picture that he's giving about crossing the mountain. My path is difficult. It's a mountain path. I am blind, so it's very dangerous when you're walking across a mountain and you're blind. If you've ever ridden up the Himalayas to Badrinath, did you ever go? Yeah, and you look on either side, you see buses falling down in the. So, and then you see your driver, so pious. So when you're going around these blind turns where you can't see who's there, instead of like going slowly, they pray.
Sincere.
Very sincere. I am blind, and my feet are slipping again and again. Therefore, because the path is difficult, and also we don't know the path, maybe, and therefore, when your feet are slipping, what do you need? You need a stick to help support you. So therefore, may the saints help me by granting me the stick of their mercy as my support. You need extra support. 2 legs aren't sufficient. You need at least one more leg, and that's the staff of the saints. And what is that? Their mercy, and that will support us. So immediately he's acknowledging in writing Chaitanya Caritamrita his own lack of ability to do it, but he's going on and depending on the mercy of the sadhus, of the saints, Santa Santva Avalambanam, the support of the saintly persons. And who are those saintly persons that he's taking support of? Sri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath, Echae Gutera Koron, Charanavandan, Jahoite Viginas, Abhista Paran. I prayed to the lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis. And this is, of course, we know this from the song of Narottama Das Thakur, which is almost the same. It has Ichaya Gosani Kori, Charanabhandan, Jahoite Viginas, Abhista Paran. So this means that Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Bhatta, Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta, Dasa Raghunath Das Goswami. These 6 are my spiritual masters, and I offer prayers to their lotus feet because, not only because, but from which their lotus feet, not doing it for this to happen, but it's a natural product of respecting the lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis. Jahoite Viginas Abhista Paran, the destruction of all obstacles. And so when the obstacles are removed, then Abhista Paran, that one's desires are completely fulfilled. So we want to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Goswamis, the 6 Goswamis. And Prabhupada, in a short purport, I'll read a short purport, and he does this in Chaitanya Caritamrita more than any other book. He talks about himself, and it's our dear friend, Hare Krishna. Oops, coming. Please come. Hare Krishna Janavadupu. Wait, one more. But, Hare Krishna. There's another yoga mat inside. But why don't you first bring out the yoga mat? There's another one. We have yoga mats inside. It's open already. Because the floor is cold. And where did you just come from?
Delhi.
Delhi. Where is that?
Yes, sorry.
Where is that?
Delhi, near Vrindavan.
Yes, very intelligent. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So Krishna's Kaviraj is saying, he's praying to the lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis, Sri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta and Dasa Raghunath, so that all the impediments, and he's speaking, Hare Krishna. Where is this from?
Prahlad Maharaj.
From Lord Chaitanya. Just as we're talking about the removal of obstacles, so we get some mercy from the servant of Lord Natrangadev. So he specifically, although it doesn't, he doesn't mention it directly, but the way Prabhupada translates this is that the Kaviraj is saying he wants to remove all the impediments, all the obstacles, to what? So that he can complete this Chaitanya Caritamrita, because all the Vaishnavas, and this is described earlier in Adi Lila, all the Vaishnavas have asked him to write about the pastimes of Mahaprabhu, because he was already famous as Krishnadas Kaviraj, as such a great author and kavi, because he had written Govardhan Retreat, the very intimate and wonderful Astakliya pastimes, Astayama pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan. So he'd already written this, so they were, all the devotees, even though they had read Chaitanya Bhagavata, because Krishnadas Kaviraj had heard from Raghunath Das Goswami about the final pastimes of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and because he was, and this is described a little bit later, that because Mahaprabhu had placed him directly under the care of Srup Damodar, and Srup Damodar and Ramananda Roy especially, they were with Mahaprabhu when he was undergoing the most deep experience of separation from Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So Raghunath Das serving Srup Damodar, he was intimately connected with observing the most amazing pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And although Chaitanya Bhagavat was so wonderful, and the devotees in Jagannath Puri, could you put that away? Otherwise what?
Whatever you say.
No, but why am I saying put that away?
It's distracting to the lecture.
And it's also distracting for who else? Yeah, and what's the use?
And not be able to get the knowledge properly.
I mean, what's the use of taking a photo or something at this point?
Just to keep this as a memory.
Yeah, that's what I said. What's the use? Because you'll forget everything that we heard, and then you go on with your life. Because we want to fill our consciousness with this, and to fill the consciousness, we have to hear properly. And Krishna enters our heart through the hearing process, and he manifests. This is described by Lord Brahma in the 3rd canto. He manifests according to how we hear, the way that we hear. So it's important to hear. And also when we try to hear, it's very humbling. Do you know why? Because it's so difficult. We want to pull out our mobile phones. We want to do this. We want to do that. And then we think of all the things I want to do. Are you going back to Delhi tonight, or will you spend the night here? Okay, good. So you don't have to, you have anything to worry about? Are you sure? So what will happen when your mind starts worrying about something?
I'll try to bring it back.
Yeah, thank you. So Raghunath Das had been requested, because he had been in Puri, and here the devotees are in Vrindavan. So he had been in Puri and had witnessed the pastimes that no one else had witnessed who was in Vrindavan, practically speaking. Srila Rupa Goswami had seen something, but he was there year after year. Rupa Goswami was there for 1 year. A wonderful, incredible year. But Raghunath Das had been there with Mahaprabhu for so many years, 14 years or so. And then when Mahaprabhu departed from this world, Raghunath Das was feeling, my life has there's no meaning to my life. We can't even imagine, and this comes out, this is what Vrindavan Leela is all about, because we're preparing for these classes on Varaha Gita, where Krishna leaves Vrindavan, and the preparation is so amazing, because you have to enter. You get it just a little bit maybe, because being quite a fallen soul, but you understand something about how attractive Krishna was, because you're hearing how the mood of the Braja Gopikas after, when Krishna was leaving, and it was completely intolerable for them. And they were criticizing everyone. They were criticizing, of course, who was the first person they criticized? Do you know? Akrura. Saying his name, Akrura means not cruel, but he's the cruelest person, and he's not even consoling us. He didn't even go to Mother Yashoda and say, "Don't worry, I'll bring him back with my own hand. I'll bring him back. He didn't say anything. And the gopis were thinking they had no life left in their bodies. And they were in such a predicament, such a difficult circumstance. So by this we get an idea of what love is. And then we understand, at least I understand by this, that there's no love in the heart. I don't care about anything, only myself, selfishness. There was one old devotee in Vrindavan, a Bengali devotee, now he's long ago passed away, and he used to say, I'm the worst kind of fish, a selfish. Because all we're concerned is ourself. We're the center of existence, and this is the definition of Maya, practically speaking, ahankara. This is the illusion that Maya gives us. When we turn our back, Krishna Muni says, when we turn our back on Krishna, Maya warns us even, don't do this. But we're determined to turn our back on Krishna. We want our own universe, basically. We're the center. And Krishna, and Maya gives us a mind. And in this material mind, we're the center of everything. This is the central illusion. And it's a reflection, perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Because in the spiritual world, Krishna, of course, is the center, and everyone agrees on this one thing, that it is Krishna who is the center. Everyone, due to love, loves Krishna. So when we hear about the Raghunath Das, how he didn't feel how he had nothing left of his life when Krishna left, and then Sri Damodar quickly left. So, and then we hear about the Braja Gopikas. Then we get a glimpse of just imagine this person, Krishna, who's so beautiful. Not imagine in the sense of making things up, but imagine in the sense of we bring the concept into our mind, because that's what we have to do. We have to bring this into our mind. Otherwise, our mind will only be thinking about ourselves all day long, and criticizing everyone else and justifying everything that we've ever done. So we have to bring Krishna into our minds. And the process of that is hearing. The main process, not taking photos of it and videos. I mean, I'm just teasing you a little bit. But so the exalted devotees in Vrindavan, they had Chaitanya Bhagavata, but they didn't have the experience of hearing about Mahaprabhu's final pastimes, especially that. So they asked Krishnadas Kaviraj to write about his final pastimes. He does that, and they're especially in chapters 14, all of Antya-lila, but especially chapters 14 to 16, which very few devotees had the privilege of seeing. And when you read these pastimes, it's very rare when Mahaprabhu talks about his internal mood, but what happens is you see through Kaviraj Goswami, who's heard from Raghunath Das Goswami, who was right there, and there was nothing Raghunath Das Goswami was trying to gain by making up stories or something like that. He wasn't of this world. And when you read in the 6th chapter of Antya-lila about Raghunath, it's so clear that he wasn't of this world. You can't imitate him. And no one would want to imitate him even, but you can't imitate him, even if you wanted to. And so when you hear what Mahaprabhu had done, how the devotees reacted to that, they can only get a glimpse of his internal mood, in one sense, by seeing how his internal mood reflected in his external behavior. His ecstasy was so intense that sometimes his joints Mahaprabhu's joints would be separated, all the joints, by 6 inches of skin. And sometimes just the opposite would have all his joints, and he would become so long in size. And sometimes all his joints would be, all his limbs would be withdrawn into his body. And he would become like a what? A tortoise, or it says like a pumpkin. So then when he became like that, they found him in front of the Singadora. Have you heard the Puri? Yeah. Have you? Yeah. You want to see a photo of Jagannath Puri?
I would love that.
Huh?
I would love that.
But then the devotees, when he was really long and in ecstasy, they couldn't move him very easily. But when he was like a pumpkin, they just picked him up and brought him back to his home, and they chanted. They chanted loudly, and they brought him back to external consciousness. So what kind of ecstasy is going on inside that causes these external manifestations? And what did the devotees think? They didn't think how, when they would see him in Jagannath Puri, they would see him in these incredible states of ecstasy that were inconceivable, that no one had ever seen before. And then when he would come to external consciousness, they would say, he would start talking about what was going on inside, so therefore they knew. But when they saw him in that way, and sometimes blood would be coming from the pores of his body. And it's not that they thought how wonderful Mahaprabhu was experiencing ecstasy. No, they were in complete anxiety. Complete, because how could they not be? They saw, how could they not be in complete anxiety? The person they loved so much, whose association who filled their consciousness with love for Krishna and love for him, and looked externally even, and they knew there was something else going inside, but externally they couldn't tolerate it. They were in complete anxiety. So therefore, when I see the in Delhi, those little book distribution cars where it says, read Bhagavad Gita for an anxiety-free life. I always think, what version are they reading? But of course we understand what it means, that on the material level, when you take shelter of Krishna, if you really take shelter of Krishna, you can live in this world free from anxiety. I saw Prabhupada in Fiji one time. He was sitting. I'll show you what he did. He was just sitting. Just there was a few people in the room, and there was some wealthy Gujaratis there he was staying with them, and he said, in the beginning, we had nothing, and Prabhupada, we know, started the movement with nothing. And then he put his hand like this, and then he said, and now we have and he said, in the beginning we had nothing, but there was no anxiety. And then this movement he would do sometimes like this. You see sometimes some photos of Prabhupada like that. And then he said, and now we have so much. At that time he had millions of dollars in property and books and everything, and still there is no anxiety. That's what he said. But actually, he had to go through so much. He had to go through so much to start the movement. And everyone who's serious about serving Prabhupada, his mood of preaching, to get Mahaprabhu's mercy in that way, has to go through so much. It's not the easiest life, but when you have that goal fixed in front of you, and you're taking shelter of Krishna and the exalted devotees like the 6 Goswamis, and of course Srila Prabhupada and his exalted followers, then the road can become very smooth in the sense of trusting you have their support and Krishna's support. So this is what Kaviraj Goswami is saying when he says, I pray to the lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis, Rupa, Sanatan, Bhatta, Raghunaths, Jiva Gopala, Dasa Raghunaths, so that all the impediments to my writing this literature will be annihilated and my real desire will be fulfilled. So his Abhishta Puran, his fulfilling his desire is, there's so many different levels of that. One is to please the Vaishnavas. He's writing this not because he wants to publish a book and make money in royalties or become famous. He wants to please these exalted Vaishnavas who hadn't heard of the final pastimes of Mahaprabhu, and he wanted to please them. He explains this later on. He really wanted to, and earlier too, he wanted to please these exalted souls. So Prabhupada in his purport, it's interesting because he reveals more in Chaitanya Caritamrita about his life and what it was like spreading the Krishna consciousness movement. And he's very critical sometimes of those, because the people who you think would support you the most, considering what he was doing, following the order of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they tried to stop him in so many ways. So here's Prabhupada's purport, short. If one wants to benefit the entire world, he will certainly find persons who are like hogs and pigs, who will put forward many impediments. Prabhupada he was a warrior. He was a warrior. When you fight with a warrior, you have to expect darts and arrows coming in your direction. That is natural, he says, that people who don't know how to benefit the world, they will oppose you. But if a devotee seeks shelter at the lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis, the merciful Goswamis will certainly give the Lord's servitor all protection. What do you think, Prabhu, of that? Should I read it again? It's because, if a devotee seeks shelter at the lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis, the merciful Goswamis will certainly give the Lord's servitor all protection. Now, Prabhupada, of course, is speaking about himself, but yet he's also telling us something. And what is that thing he's telling us?
We should be fearless and take shelter of lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis.
Yeah, if a devotee even seeks that shelter, what does seek mean?
Following
Pagadi. No, not that seek.
desire.
Yeah, you really want to get their shelter. You need their shelter. If a devotee seeks shelter at the lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis, the merciful Goswamis will certainly give the Lord's servitor all protection. So that is hope-giving. Before we were talking about the importance of, without hope, we can't go on. So Prabhupada is giving us hope. It is not astonishing that impediments are placed before those who are spreading the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. And sometimes if you listen to Prabhupada's lectures in 1976 or so, he talks about how the devotees are sometimes even put in prison, and sometimes the police are harassing them. So there are impediments. There's always going to be impediments. Nevertheless, one of the reasons we joined the Krishna consciousness movement is because we want an anxiety-free life. We want shantaras, basically. We want some peace. Because, in our materialistic life, we don't get peace. So we're lured by the desire for peace. But you can't have peace in the material world. You can only have peace if you have shelter. And there's no real shelter in the material world. So if we adhere to the lotus feet of the six Goswamis and pray for their mercy, all impediments will be annihilated. So that means external impediments and internal impediments. And the transcendental devotional desire to serve the Supreme Lord will be fulfilled. So that's what he was talking about when he says Abhishta Puran. So two things. Impediments removed, Jahahoite Vigyanas, by taking shelter of the lotus feet, and also Abhishta Puran, that the desires will be fulfilled. And that's why we need to hear, is so that those spiritual desires become implanted in our heart and that they will grow. That's the process of watering, Shravanadi Jal. The watering of the spiritual desires is the hearing. So such a simple statement. And Prabhupada is speaking from his experience, so it has such potency. If we pray for their mercy, if we adhere to the lotus feet of the six Goswamis and pray for their mercy, all impediments will be annihilated, and the transcendental devotional desire to serve the Supreme Lord will be fulfilled. And then more prayers, because he's opening Antya Lila, so there's prayers that are very famous. Jayatam Surato Pangor Mama Manda Matayagati Matsarvasa Padambojo Radha Madana Mohano. Glory to the all-merciful Radha and Madan Mohan. I am lame and ill-advised. So he's saying that he's the one who's lame. He can't cross the mountain. And ill-advised. What does he mean when he says ill-advised?
Like materially diseased, kind of.
Yeah, but who's giving the advice? The ill-advised, the bad advice? The mind. Yet they, the six, Radha and Madan Mohan, he's already explained this already, how he got the mercy of Madan Mohan. They are my directors. And their lotus feet are everything to me. So when will we be able to honestly say that the Lord is directing me and their lotus feet are everything to me? Everything. Matsarvasa padambojo Radha Madana Mohano. Your lotus feet are everything to me. What do you think when you hear that? Because you're a worshipper of Radha Madana Mohan? Because they're the deities that Prabhupada installed in Washington, D.C.
What do I think?
Yeah, when you hear that.
I've got a long way to go.
Yeah, that's also what I think. Everything means everything. Not this part for Krishna, this part for me, this part for this part for that. Everything. So when the lotus feet of the Lord are everything for you, then you get a different response from the Lord when it's this percentage for you and this percentage for me. Then he moves on to Radha Govinda. In a temple of jewels, Divya Vrinda Nanya Kalpaju Mahada, Sriman Ratnagara Singhasanasto, Srimad Ratna Sila Govinda Deva, Prestalebhyo Sevyamano Smara Ami. He's remembering Radha Govinda. How many times have you seen Radha Govinda?
Many times.
And what do you think when you see them?
The beautiful Lord we can see, and also remember the service rendered by the Goswamis, Rupa Goswami, Raghunatha Goswami.
And what else do you think of when you think of Radha Govinda?
Laddu.
What else?
And like Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami is saying, like he's the Abhidaya.
But what do you think of? Okay, listen, you think of he's Abhidaya Tattva?
That's how.
But yeah, because naturally you also think of the devotion that the people of Jaipur have for Radha Govinda. And it's shocking. Do you also think about that? Yeah, their devotion is so powering. Have you been there? Yes or no? Have you seen Radha Govinda?
Jaipur.
In Jaipur? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. You?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I also have.
Also remember how Jai Singh used to like serve Radha Govinda. To declare like how Radha Govind is the main king of Jaipur and placed that
In the palace.
palace.
So, in a temple of jewels in Vrindavan, so at this time Radha Govinda were in Vrindavan during the time of Kaviraj Goswami. There, in a temple of jewels, so what kind of vision did he have? Underneath a desire tree, Kalpabriksha, Kalpadruma, Sisi Radha Govinda, served by their most confidential associates, sit upon an effulgent throne. I offer my humble obeisances unto them. Wow. Because we see with our consciousness, not exactly with our eyes. And it was very much the servants of Radha Govinda who had requested him, Haridas, Pandit Haridas, had asked him to write this book. And I offer my humble obeisances unto them. And Sriman Rasar Samrambi Vam Sivatata Stita Karsan Venam Svanea Gopir Gopinata Sirestuna. And then he moves to Gopinath, Srila Gopinath, who originated the transcendental mellow of the rasa dance, stands on a throne, the shore of Vamsivat, and attracts the attention of the cowherd damsels with the sound of his celebrated flute. May they all confer upon us their benedictions. So he's requesting these deities to benedict us, to bless us. And then, as you pointed out about that Sambandha, Avideya, and Prayojan. And then, Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivinoda. All glories to Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Acharya, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. I have briefly described the pastimes of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, known as Madhya Lila. Now I shall attempt to describe something about his last pastimes, which are known as Antya Lila. I've briefly described the Antya Lila within the description of Madhya Lila, in the first two chapters of Madhya Lila. But now, Ami Jara Grasta. Grasta means it's holding on to me. Old age is holding on to me. I am in the grip of old age. And then Nikate Janiya Maran. Very soon my death will come. Antya Kono Lila Kariyache Varnan. So therefore I have described these pastimes in brief, Santipta, a summary earlier, because he didn't know when his time would come. Prabhupada's translation. I am now almost an invalid because of old age. I'm in the grip of old age. and all day just squeezing until finished. And I know that any moment I may die. Therefore, I have already described some portion of Antya Lila. What are you thinking right now? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, actually I'm getting some call from my Retreat Center.
Yeah, what center is that?
There's some youth center, so
Yeah.
few devotees want to shift, so they are calling for.
Yeah. And that's on your mind.
And that I wanted to say that I will talk after 30 minutes.
You want to tell them that?
Yeah.
Why don't you tell them that so you can concentrate? Because you said it in an interesting way. I'm thinking about my center. But what is my center? It's Krishna. But of course you're thinking of Krishna Seva, but you please inform them. And you can even speak, it's okay. So here's Prabhupada's short purport. Following in the footsteps of Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, I'm trying to translate Srimad Bhagavatam as quickly as possible. So I think Prabhupada wrote this probably in 1972, I think. You know, Bhadrihari? 75?
60?
Yeah.
4 or 5?
4 or 5. However, knowing myself to be an old man and almost an invalid because of rheumatism, I've already translated the essence of all literatures, the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, as a summary study in English. I started the Krishna consciousness movement at the age of 70. Now I am 78. Yeah, so can't do the math.
Yeah.
That's 74.
Yeah.
And so my death is imminent. So heavy. At one time in Hong Kong, I brought Prabhupada, I got him some ginseng. You know what ginseng is? You know what it is? It's a restorative root that the Chinese take, because I was in Hong Kong. Have you ever heard of ginseng? It restores. Well, so I brought Prabhupada a bottle of ginseng. And he just laughed. This was in 72, so he was already 76. And he said, if I am dying, and it was such a shock to him, we couldn't conceive of Prabhupada dying and leaving this world because we were completely dependent on him and he was everything for everyone in the movement. He said, if I am dying, I have told my disciples, don't bring me to a hospital. Just put a tulsi leaf on my head and chant Hare Krishna. He wanted the lotus feet of Krishna on his head. How old are you?
23.
And you?
25.
So, of course, when you're 23 and 25, you don't think about the fact that you're going to die. But when you're 70, you definitely think about it. Definitely. I don't know. Of course, the thought haunts us because we see our parents and grandparents going. So we know it's there, but we don't really think it's going to happen to us because the soul is eternal. So Prabhupada so he said, just take me, put tulsi leaf on my head. He wasn't interested in the ginseng. He said, just don't bring me to a hospital. Just put a tulsi leaf on my head and chant Hare Krishna. But it was such a shock to hear Prabhupada talking about his departure. And I'm listening, just almost finished Prabhupada's room conversations and lectures in 1977. And sometimes he sounds so weak. But as soon as he's preaching, These people are all rascals, and on and on and on and on. He's so strong. He gets more energy when he's preaching. He's quite amazing. I'm trying to finish the translation of Srimad Bhagavatam as soon as possible. But before finishing it, I have given my readers the book Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so that if I die before finishing the whole task, they may enjoy this book, which is the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, the 10th canto. So we see it's impossible even for devotees from India, especially, or even devotees who no one knew anything about Krishna before. Even the devotees didn't know anything about Krishna. I remember Prabhupada is giving a lecture in perhaps 1966, and he wants to make the point that Krishna's body is composed of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. So he's saying, you hear this, that you'll never see a picture of Krishna as an old man. And then there's a long pause. And he says, have any of you ever seen a picture of Krishna? So it's inconceivable for Indian devotees, yes? Because it's so much part of your culture, your upbringing, your blood, your DNA, etc. But that's what was so miraculous about Prabhupada. What Prabhupada did, he planted these incredible seeds that in a place where the soil was completely barren. No one in the room had seen a picture of Krishna. And he was preaching and trying to convince them about Krishna consciousness. But no one had any concept of Krishna. So when we first got the Krishna book, we were amazed because we're hearing about Krishna for the first time and all the things that he had done. And now, of course, everyone knows about Krishna, everyone knows about everything on a certain level. But to enter into really knowing who Krishna is, we have to get the mercy of the Goswamis, and we have to, and their mercy is partially their literatures, and Prabhupada's also, but it's very mysterious. Okay, we have just a few minutes left. Let's see. So then he says what he's going to do. Oh yeah. I have given my readers the book Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so that if I die before finishing the whole task, they may enjoy this book, which is the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam. He gave that so early because he wanted us to introduce us to Krishna and get involved in hearing about Krishna and thinking about Krishna and remembering Krishna. And he also, even before that book, Krishna book, he gave teachings of Lord Chaitanya where he summarized all the philosophy that Mahaprabhu taught to different devotees. And then he said, then Kaviraj Goswami continues, in accordance with the synopsis previously written, because he summarized Antya Lila of Caitanya Caritamrita in the second half of Madhya Lila 2 and Madhya Lila 1 and chapter 2. I shall now describe in detail what I have not mentioned. So he's going to describe some more details, especially about Mahaprabhu's final pastimes. And then what he wants to talk about will begin after offering prayers. So we have just 2 or 3 more minutes. Any questions or comments? What do you think, Janavadut?
It's nice to hear Lord Chaitanya Caritamrita read us from you. So just here Krishna's Kaviraj was saying, seeking the mercy of the Goswamis, 6 Goswamis. So it's only the desire, or like how we can follow the 6 Goswamis, like through Guru Parampara or any specific instruction?
Both. Because like Prabhupada, that was one of his favorite songs, the glorification of the 6 Goswamis by Srinivasacharya. There's so many instructions in there about the internal development of Krishna consciousness and what they did, what their external activities, dhira, tena, priyakaro. They were dear to everyone, and everyone loved them because they were so generous-hearted. They were just in the mood of giving, and they were giving the most valuable thing. And they were so renounced. So that means that they weren't taking anything for themselves. So that internal mood is, we want to imbibe that, and their mercy, and their books. And what did Prabhupada do? He translated their books. And the followers of the 6 Goswamis, like Kaviraj Goswami, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, his comments, he incorporated those so much into Jiva Goswami's comments, into his Prabhupada's own comments of Chaitanya Caritamrita, of Srimad Bhagavatam. So there's so many ways we follow them. I was also hearing how Prabhupada was speaking about one has to be, in 1977, one has to be disgusted with the material world. Because when we still maintain desires to get something from the material world on some level, on the gross level, material comforts, and on the subtle level, labha, puja, pratishtha, jata. These are upasakagan. They get in the way of our the blossoming of our devotional kripa.
We regularly hear from Srila Prabhupada and read books Prabhupada, so we definitely feel very much connected to Prabhupada. So do we need another extra endeavor to connect with the 6 Goswamis, or that's already included if we are feeling a connection to Prabhupada? So all the acharyas and specifically the 6 Goswamis.
Do we need to know anything about them and follow them also?
We know,
but that's Prabhupada's instructions. He's singing this.
The specific connection, like Prabhupada is saying, we should have the 6 Goswamis.
But we serve them through, but still we serve. Because Prabhupada never, of course, he did to some degree, he was the center, but he was representing them. His mood wasn't just serve me and forget about everyone else. Yeah, it's an interesting question. What do you think? He was always singing. Look at his recordings, even. And even just, that's what he would do. He would sing. He would write. Yeah, he wasn't separating himself from the Guru Parampara. What do you think?
Yes.
What mood do you like? What mood do you like? But if someone just wants to serve Prabhupada, but you serve him not as separate,
yes,
as such an exalted, empowered representative of all these great souls. We're just reading about Kaviraj Goswami's mood, and who's translated this? It's Prabhupada.
Yes.
So he's saying that. He's saying specifically there's so many obstacles, but if we adhere to the lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis and pray for their mercy, so to take shelter of Prabhupada is to follow his instructions. So, and if we pray for their mercy, all impediments will be annihilated. So we're learning how to serve the Goswamis through Prabhupada, certainly. What do you think?
Yes.
What do you think? What do you think? Of course, we'll disagree now.
So, this is safer to go through the Prabhupada. Although Prabhupada is saying to serve Sri Goswami, so we have to serve according to.
But he's teaching us how.
Given by Prabhupada. So that is the essence. Similarly, we should.
He's giving us the light because, like, say, so if I speak about Prabhupada, I mean, and there's certainly devotees who had more association with Prabhupada than I did, but I could say things about Prabhupada, and you want to follow Prabhupada, so that gives you hints not only about his instructions, but about who the person was. So Prabhupada was like that with his spiritual master and the Goswamis.
Yes, definitely we can get a better understanding by Prabhupada disciples about Prabhupada.
And similarly, through Prabhupada, we get a better understanding of the 6 Goswamis, too. But not that we shouldn't understand the 6 Goswamis. But some devotees have a little bit different mood. But that's my understanding. That Prabhupada gave us the key to understand them. He was a follower.
But I feel that when we get more and more connected to our Guru Maharaj and Prabhupada disciples,
it comes that way.
We get more attached to Srila Prabhupada and Acharyas also.
Yes.
So it's a same parampara. Because when we try to jump over, we get disconnected to Guru parampara also, and we don't get that Acharyas also.
That's my understanding. And but also it doesn't stop with them, it also continues to Krishna in that way.
Yeah.
So, yes, so when we read, because Prabhupada's saying he's written about Krishna so that we deepen our relationship with Krishna. And he's saying, Abhishta Paran, the desires will be fulfilled, so we should have those desires. And there's one place where Prabhupada writes that you serve through the disciplic succession, but you serve Krishna directly too. And he said that's the mystery of the disciplic succession. So it's not that we cut Krishna out. And nor do we cut out Panchatattva or Mahaprabhu or Nityananda Prabhu or the Rupa Goswami, but we have to know how to please them. And that we really learn from Prabhupada. Because when we read about the Goswamis, they have a degree of renunciation that we can't imitate, and we can't follow in their footsteps in that way. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur stressed Yukta Vairagya, using everything in Krishna's service, not thinking that it was ours. We can't be Vairagis in that way. Some devotees may be, but most people can't really be Vairagis Because I remember many years ago, I was on a train coming back from New Delhi, and there was sadhu on the train, and there was a lot of rain, so the train had stopped. And suddenly I hear this sound, and he goes like, moves his treader, and there's his mobile phone. And he's talking on the mobile phone, and then when he's talking, and there's another sound, and he goes like this, and there's a second mobile phone. And he's talking. And who's going, how do you live? And I love to take photos, actually. Now, I didn't mean to criticize you. Maybe I was criticizing myself. I used to love to take photos in Vrindavan. So I was walking in the Vrindavan Parikrama Marg, and the sadhu, it's not like this all over the world that people like to have their photos taken, but in India, people love to have their photo. In China, they're so afraid that you'll show their photo for the secret police or something like that. So everyone's fearful of having pictures taken. But Indian people love to have their pictures taken, photos taken. So this one, I was walking on the Parikrama Marg taking photos, and this one sadhu said, this was probably 25 years ago too. So he said, "You can take my photo." And I said, "Okay." So he leaned against a tree, like this. And then after I took his photo, he said, "You can upload to my Facebook." So who's going to be, it's not easy to be Vairagi. Very rare. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur stressed Yukta Vairagya, as Rupa Goswami stressed it, to use everything in Krishna's service. And Prabhupada gave us such a big preaching movement where everything, the technology, this, that, could be used in Krishna's service and the service of the preaching movement. But we have to be careful. Because although utility is the principle, purity is the force. 'Cause it's so easy to say, "Oh, this is for Krishna," and then use it for me. What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like in CC, at one point, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that without being a kinchana, the mercy will not come.
And this is what Prabhupada was stressing in this. It was a bit, made me shake a little bit. What he was saying, he was talking about that point in this 1977.
Yeah, so without being like, even Yukta Vairagya is a little contradictory with that, with this word exactly, if you see, because Akinchana means like completely renounced, like there is nothing, like you're depending only on the mercy. But at the same point, when we talk about Shukta Vairagya, we are talking about taking the things and using it in the service. So the two things are a little bit, I feel that it's a little bit.
No. Because if you're using it in Krishna's service, then you're using it in the service who it belongs to, of the person who it belongs to.
Isn't it it's very thin?
Well, it depends on purity. So therefore, purity is the force that gives it strength. Because but even Nityananda Prabhu, he covered himself in jewels and everything like that. And people would say, "What kind of sannyasi is this?" And he said, his reply was, "I don't know. I'm just Mahaprabhu is making me do everything." But that was Mahaprabhu making him do everything.
And that was Nityananda Prabhu.
And that was Nityananda Prabhu. So we should be careful. Devotees should be careful.
So if I take one this question, so what's easy? Yukta Vairagya or Akinchana?
They're both difficult.
We make a comparison.
Well, I think for us, we can't. I don't think we have the capacity to be actual Vairagis, and that's what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur saw, and that's why that Madhava Baba, when he gave Vrindakund to ISKCON, or he tried to give it to ISKCON, but he wandered all around Braj, and he saw that the Vairagis weren't really Vairagis. I mean, how many mobile phones Does anyone not have a mobile phone, practically, or two? So it's not only mobile phones, but and the problem, even if you're in Sattva Gun, then whatever gives you pleasure, even if it's Sattva Gun, you get attached to, and then Raja Gun is born from that. So it's tricky business. So the conclusion is better to use everything in Krishna service than imitate. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was very strong on that, even though he himself was such a vairagi. And we have such a big mission. If we could become very serious about it, then we'll get so much mercy. But go ahead, you want to push further at this point? But yes, it's not easy. You need to be in love with Vaishnavas, with Krishna, and do things for their pleasure. That's always the issue.
But when I think on it, like I feel that it's easy to choose a Kinchana than Yukta Vairagya, because at least in that position you don't have anything to renounce. Like you're easy.
But if you take preaching seriously, you'll end up like that. And preaching is the tapasya.
Preaching is
the tapasya, and the vairagya, because it's not that when you preach, that life is so easy. There's so many impediments that come you. You have to. It's so austere. It's so austere, and you have to. In India, it's a little bit different, but especially in the West, I mean, like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, you have to shed 200 gallons of blood to save one soul. I mean, in India, it's like that too in one sense, but it's like that everywhere. But in the West, completely. And now and even in India, like you go to these universities. There was in IIT in Madras some years ago. They realized, how the internet was killing all the students, the young men. So the head of the school said, we're going to cut it down at like 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night, something. And the students went mad. They protested, they went on strike, and they forced him to take that away. So it's not easy. And you're students. Are you both students? I mean, you know what goes on in the dormitories. Yeah. So anyway, let's.
Yeah, it's okay. I think.
I mean, where are you going to hide and be a vairagi? We're in Vrindavan too. You can't hide in Govardhan. You can't. You used to be able to hide. Prabhupada said when he left for India in 1976 at the airport, he was talking to one of his disciples, Himavati, and he said, "You'll come to Vrindavan. I'll teach you. You can learn how to carry a water pot on your head, and you won't hear the whoosh, whoosh, whoosh of motor cars here. Now you also can't hear the whoosh, whoosh, whoosh because of the horns are so loud. You can't hear anything." So where are you going? And it's getting worse and more and more and more. Look at the Yamuna now. Look at, Govardhan's a business. Varsana, Nandagaon, where will you hide? But I know what you mean. Because you end up in the middle almost. But therefore, we have to increase the desire and pray to the Goswamis and become a servant of the servants of their servants. You wanted to say something?
I just wanted to confirm my understanding about this Akinchana. Like that, I think that what I understand that Akinchana is the possessive mood. If akinchana is just related to possessive mood. Possessive mood, some possession.
Possession, yes.
So even we have nothing and we have possessive consciousness that I have this body, that is not akinchana. Even a beggar cannot, and a beggar cannot be said to akinchana just because he has nothing. And even a Janak Maharaj and Amrish Maharaj can be said as akinchana. So it's a consciousness of possession, like that.
And Kunti Devi says, Tama Kinchana Gochara.
Yes. So a devotee like Amrish Maharaj and Janak Maharaj, they are just like Akinchan because they have nothing.
They are Akinchan.
Yeah, they are.
And how about Prabhupada?
Because they have nothing for themselves. So
not that they have nothing for themselves, but they consider nothing theirs.
Yeah.
They think everything belongs to Krishna.
That is Akinchan consciousness. Whatever we have, that is for Krishna's service, nothing for themselves.
Yeah, and we all know the philosophy.
Yeah.
And it's not so easy to do.
So we have to practice on that.
Well, that's exactly the point, isn't it? That are you okay?
Yeah.
But we have to try to apply what we read. And then if we realize this is beyond our capacity, then we, instead of going like this, we go like this. And if we can't go like this, we go like this. Because when you try to be 100% sincere, then that's how you become humble. Because you realize how the depth of the insincerity in the heart. So therefore then we can pray and chant. Yes, sir, I agree. Because someone who's not a kinshana can't chant with feeling. There's the purport, that purport in the 8th chapter of 1st canto. So powerful. I think we should end because it's before everyone either leaves or goes to sleep or whatever.